Welcome to The Business That Pays with Adam Tolliver from Artisan Financial Strategies, where we mind the business that pays you. In this podcast, we empower successful families and business owners to make informed decisions about their finances through courageous conversations. Through his expertise as a practicing investment advisor representative with Eagle Strategies, LLC, a registered investment advisor, Adam teaches you how to create a wealth ecosystem by combining a practical technical framework with your personal, family, and community values. Join us for this journey where Adam normalizes sustainable wealth building and gives you the keys to make courageous, proactive financial decisions.
You are rather talented at doing things yourself. You can rewire a lamp, refinish a wood floor, install a bathroom sink, and hey, you even have your own toolbox. You also believe you can do your own financial planning. Perhaps. Your host, Adam Tolliver, has some thoughts on that. I'm Patrice Sikora. Adam, before we get into the meat of this, remind us of your credentials and why you can speak to this topic with some authority.
Sure. Absolutely, Patrice. Thank you so much. So I have been a financial advisor now for 8 years. And of course, by virtue of experience working with clients, that's in one capacity. But over the years, I've gathered different registrations, licenses, credentials, and continuing education is a huge part of my responsibility to my clients and to myself as a professional. So I carry a certified financial planner designation. I carry a chartered financial consultant designation. And of course, I bring to the table my Series 6, Series 7, Series 66, all of these things that both inform and enable me to professionally, legally, and with recourse give financial advice to clients in real life, right? So not just on the internet, but to actually sit side by side, face to face, belly to belly across the table with real people with real challenges and issues. And so I've got a bit of perspective. And I also want to note at the top here, my bias, of course, because I'm a professional, because I'm paid to do this. And this is a conversation about whether someone should pay a professional or go it alone. I want to acknowledge that bias from the outset. Of course, I think that it's a great idea to hire a competent professional to help you, but we'll talk about that today.
All right. Let's start off with a definition, basically. What is do-it-yourself financial planning?
This is actually really funny because the scope of that answer can vary wildly. But in fairness, it can also vary if you're talking about hiring a professional. So in my experience, when I meet someone, a prospective client, or someone who wants to engage with us, but they have been doing it yourself, quote unquote, what that typically is limited to is their investment portfolio. And one of the things that I am always trying to caution people against is not believing that their financial plan is limited to their investment portfolio.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Your investments are just one aspect of your financial world. In your financial plan, you have insurance and asset protection concerns. You have estate planning concerns. You have tax planning concerns. And for someone who's not a professional, sometimes you think in terms of retirement, you think in terms of investments, and then that's kind of the end of it. And that is, of course, a risk that you run if you're going do it yourself. It's sort of the you don't know what you don't know conundrum that anyone would have approaching something as robust as your finances. And so in my experience, most of the time when people say they handle it themselves, they're talking about their investment portfolio. They don't necessarily, and in some cases, they may prepare their taxes on their own, right? And tax preparation and tax planning are two different things. So that we'll get into kind of the details of it in our conversation, but that's part of the distinction. It's the scope of what it is that you do versus what a professional or a team of professionals would help you do if you're doing it on your own versus if you're hiring?
I would think that a do-it-yourselfer probably uses like online information mostly, and
Mm-hmm.
there's so many other tools that they may not know about.
Absolutely. And that is a great point because we do live in the information age, and admittedly, the majority of information that you need can be found online. There are a couple challenges with that. And one thing that a professional would do that a layman may not do, it's kind of like if you're teaching yourself something, the information is available and you can go out and find it. One of the challenges is you don't necessarily know how to filter which information is most relevant to you.
Yeah.
And so there's so much information, it's information overload that you end up cobbling together things that may or may not be best for your situation just because you don't have that skill for discernment. So from an aptitude standpoint, from an intellect standpoint, it's not whether or not you're capable, it's more so how refined are you able to be in filtering through gobs and gobs of information, right? And so when it comes to investing, there are all types of existing platforms that are there for you to work on your own. So companies like E-Trade, companies like TD Ameritrade that exist and will provide sort of base level education on stock picking, evaluation, building a portfolio, and those are definitely valuable and they're viable ways to invest. And then when it comes to other areas of planning, when we look at things like estate planning, people might use like a LegalZoom as a service. And I want to be clear, this is not a critique or an endorsement of any of these platforms. This is just to kind of contextualize the tools that exist that are out there that people may go and use. And one of the things that I kind of caution against as an advisor is if you're doing all of these things separately, so you've got your investment portfolio over here, and you've got maybe you look up an insurance calculator online and say, this is my income, this is my wife's income or my partner's income. We have X amount of kids, we live in this house, and at the end it spits out, this is how much life insurance you need. This is how much property and casualty insurance you need. So like you can use those types of calculators, right? There are a lot of them online. If you do each of these things separately, in each individual silo, they may be sound and quality advice for that, or quality instruction for that specific area. But if you were to integrate them together, they might not match. They might not complement each other. They might not flow in a cohesive plan. And from my perspective as a professional, one of my jobs is to help you integrate the different silos of planning so that you do have a cohesive plan.
Mm-hmm. Let's just step back and take a look at, there are some pros though to doing it yourself. I mean, you could save money, right? Cost savings.
Yes, absolutely. Avoiding advisory fees. So financial advisors, wealth managers, financial planners get paid in a few different ways. They can be paid fee only, they can be paid fee based, they can be paid commissions on product placements. And all of those are things that can impact a decision as to whether or not you want to hire someone. So someone may charge a financial planning fee, for example, and that can be valuable, but it may not be a fee that you're at a place that you want to pay or that you feel is necessary, right? And so an advantage of doing it yourself is you don't have to pay anyone.
Well, and some people might say, well, wait a minute, if I'm doing it myself, I have direct control, direct involvement. But wait, I would argue if you have a good relationship with your financial advisor, you do have direct control.
Absolutely. And a relationship with an advisor is really as much about accountability and partnership as it is, its control is really kind of relative, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want full autonomy to make all of your decisions, there are different relationships that you can have with advisors. And a lot of advisors will tell you, I'm here to give you advice, but our clients don't always take 100% of our advice, right?
True.
And so it's a working relationship, and it's iterative, and it evolves over time. And so you can, at the end of the day, you are the client, and it is your money, and it is your plan. It's also your life, your family, the things that you care about. I do think that, sometimes there's this perception of your financial advisor is sort of like the police and the gatekeeper of your money, when really they're just there to hold you accountable to a plan.
All right. Then I would argue some people would say, but I'm learning. I've learned so much. I now understand a lot more, and I can manage my finances much better.
Yes. And that is an awesome benefit to doing it yourself. I think there's benefit in general to being curious and continuing to learn, and continuing to ask questions, and also putting yourself in position to ask better questions. And so that's a huge part. And there's also something empowering about knowing that you've taken the initiative, you've learned a valuable skill that you can use and share with your family, and help to manage and really kind of dictate the financial outcomes for your family. So that's absolutely a benefit.
All right. You did mention some of the negatives before, and a couple more have come to mind for me. This takes time if you want to do it on your own. It really takes time and effort.
Absolutely. And this is one of the most interesting ones for me. It is time consuming. It does require a lot of time and effort. And it's also one of those things where what I see most frequently are people who get very excited about learning, but then maybe their motivation kind of ebbs and flows. And so they do a good job kind of setting up some basics for themselves in the beginning, and they're on top of it, but then life happens. And so maybe a few months go by, a year goes by, 2 years go by, and they're just not able to consistently give the type of attention that they need to their situation. And then there's laws, regulations, rules change frequently, definitely annually, sometimes more frequently than annually. So keeping up with rule changes, law changes, how they impact your financial plan, how they impact your taxes, your financial portfolio, your estate plan, that can be very easy to drop the ball on when you're doing it on your own.
And you can make mistakes, and that can cost you.
Absolutely. And the mistakes, of course, it goes back to what we were talking about as far as the discernment to filter what's relevant to you and what's not. There are just blind spots that exist. And I would even argue, and we've had an episode about this in the past, Teamwork Makes the Dream Work, where even an individual advisor has blind spots and needs to be working within the context of a team of other experts in other areas. For example, despite all of my credentials and experience, I work with my clients' CPAs, I work with their estate planning attorneys, and other professional advisors that have specialty in certain areas, so that we can fact check amongst each other, so that we can bounce ideas off of each other, and so that we are turning over all stones and not missing opportunities or threats that might be outside of our professional purview.
Mm-hmm. Outline for me, please, the role of the professional advisor. You've gone through in general, but tell me, what does a professional financial advisor do?
Yes. So there are multiple different types of advisors that someone can hire and work with. You may work with an investment advisor who specifically focuses on your portfolio. You may work with a retirement planner who is specifically concerned with your retirement income when you're preparing for retirement, and the growth of your qualified plans, your 401ks, your IRAs, et cetera. And you may work with an insurance advisor. My role is financial planner and wealth manager. And part of my responsibility, as I see it for my clients, is to help them see the entire picture and work on their behalf with the team of their other advisors to make sure that each of the things that we need to do in these key areas of planning, like tax planning, like investment planning, like insurance planning, like retirement planning, are all getting done and the plan is cohesive and integrated. So a lot of times you've heard me use this term before, but I view myself as sort of a quarterback and I'm coordinating. And a lot of it ends up being kind of project management. How do we make sure that we're moving the ball down the field on behalf of our client and really have a good 360 view of what's happening and a regular cadence for how we monitor what's happening so that we can be proactive on behalf of a client.
It seems to me you also take away the stress of managing finances.
Yes, that is a huge part of it. I will say this, and showing my bias yet again, of course, I believe this to be true about my clients, but it is true. Every single one of the people that I work with, every single one of the people who come to me and hire me for advice are accomplished, ambitious, capable. And they hire me not because they could not figure this out, but because they don't need to invest the time and energy to keep their eyes on it full time. And so in so many ways, it is my responsibility to be their time and energy shield, to take this work and responsibility and have them outsource it and work with them on it on a regular cadence so that they know that things are still running the way that they need to be running.
Have you found that some of your clients become overly dependent on you, overly reliant?
No, but that could, again, trying my best to be transparent about biases, I could just enjoy the fact that people trust me that much. So overly dependent is relative. I mean, there's a sliding scale. There are some clients that need our services in our office and they rely on our staff for a lot of different things. And then there are others who are, I guess what you might call relatively low maintenance, where, if they've got their 1 or 2 check-in reviews per year, they're fine. But it really just varies. And, everyone's situation is a bit different, and the complexity of what's needed for an individual client may vary. But overall, I don't think anyone is sort of too dependent. And of course, we are always very honest about where the scope of what we can do for someone may be reaching its limits.
All right. So someone is thinking, should I go find a financial advisor or should I give it a crack on my own? What are some of the things they should consider?
So I would consider sort of your personal financial knowledge and confidence, and then also your appetite. Like, to an extent, and of course, this can be a blind spot, but most people have a good idea of how much of an appetite they have to do the work necessary to stay on top of their financial plan on a regular basis. And that's something to always consider. Another thing to consider is the complexity of your situation. And what I'll say is that a lot of the people who hire us are people who have done it for themselves for a while, but they've run into or their life and their financial world has developed into something more complex than it had been before.
Yeah.
And so, maybe their compensation has changed. And so their tax picture has changed. Maybe they've acquired new assets. They've bought a home or a second home. Maybe they've been through a life event like a divorce or someone passing away or an illness in the family. So these are things that oftentimes in a silo are not seen as financial things, but then they start to realize, oh, there are a lot of financial implications to these events that have happened. I need help. I need a second pair of eyes. I need someone to help me navigate this particular challenge. And in the process of doing so, you start to uncover a lot of other areas where value can be added by having that professional in your corner.
As a financial professional, Adam, do you mind if someone comes to interview you and then maybe goes to interview another professional before they come back?
I don't. And, inside baseball here a bit in the industry, you'll hear people say, oh, they were just a tire kicker. They were,
Right.
they were probably in it. But in all honesty, the engagement with a financial advisor is a really intimate one. And it is a relationship that you start, in my opinion, should be starting with the idea that you will be working with them for a very long time. And the acknowledgement that you will be working with them as thought partners and execution partners on some of your life's biggest events, your family's biggest events, both good and bad. And you should take your time and hire someone that you're confident about. And if that means that you need to speak to multiple people, then that's what you should do. And when people choose us, I want them to choose myself and our firm at Artisan because they've done the diligence and they're confident in the choice. And so I don't mind, and I encourage people to really think and feel their way through the process of working with the type of person and people that they believe will be that type of partner for the long term.
Well, Adam, this has been rather insightful, very insightful, in fact. Is there something we have not discussed that you really think we should?
No, I think one of the biggest things, because there are going to be people who listen to this entire conversation and are just by virtue of their personality are going to be do-it-yourselfers, right? And so one of the things that I want to encourage anyone who's doing any amount of research online or consumption of online content about personal finances is to keep in mind that a lot of the information, the majority of the information that you find online will be broad and generic. And so you have to start to refine your own discernment in understanding that lens, because what you and your family need is specific and personal, not broad and generic. So all of the information that you find out there are different approaches to different areas of planning. There are different philosophies, and some work for some people and some don't work as well for other people. So that would be like just one big takeaway that I want for anyone who's consuming financial, legal, tax information online. Understand that there are people who may share concepts, ideas, but they're broad and not meant for you individually. So you have to practice the discernment in figuring out, does this particular idea, does this particular strategy, does this particular information apply to me and my situation? And so that, of course, as an advisor, is my responsibility for my clients, is to help them discern and decide, hey, this is the specific advice that I'm giving you versus sort of the broad, wide web of information that's out there.
Fantastic. All right. Well, how can listeners reach you, Adam?
You can reach me at workingwithadam.com.
All right. Well, are you a DIYer or someone who could use a financial professional? Think about it. Follow Adam's podcast for more insights and information, and please share with others. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for listening to Business That Pays. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of the Artisan Financial Strategies or Eagle Strategies, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial professional provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment strategies.
Adam Tolliver, registered representative offering securities through New York Life Securities, LLC, member FINRA SIPC, a licensed insurance agency. 1125 Cambridge Square, Suite C, Alpharetta, Georgia, 30009, 404-210-9311. Financial advisor offering investment advisory services through Eagle Strategies, LLC, a registered investment advisor. New York Life Securities, LLC, and Eagle Strategies, LLC are New York Life companies. Artisan Financial Strategies, LLC, is not owned or operated by New York Life Securities, LLC, or its affiliates. Neither Artisan Financial Strategies, LLC, nor its advisors provide tax, legal, or accounting advice.